Hello and welcome back to DJCamel Reviews, and today I'm going to be reviewing the fifth Indiana Jones movie, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, directed by James Mangold, who I like very much. Logan from 2017 is an incredible movie, one of the best comic book superhero movies of all time in my personal humble opinion, and I think it's really good. And it was my second favourite movie of that year. 2019's Ford versus Ferrari, or in some places Le Mans 66. Another incredible movie, another movie which I thought was the second best of that year. So clearly this guy can direct action. He can direct characters, that are sort of down on their luck and a bit older and sort of contemplating whether they should do what they do. And, that's the plot of Logan. It's based on the comic book Old Man Logan, or at least that's sort of the character. Same with Ford v Ferrari. Christian Bale's character is sort of brought back, I think, into Formula One, and clearly that is a good choice for an Indiana Jones movie where Harrison Ford is maybe 78, 79 when he was making the movie, or maybe 80. He's just turned 81. So clearly, this is a good choice, and I like this director. Clearly, Steven Spielberg is the only person who should be directing Indiana Jones movies. This was not rubbish. It came out at Cannes, at the Cannes Film Festival, and that was a big mistake from Disney. And I only really realised and thought about it after it came out at Cannes, and the critics sort of panned it. I thought, this isn't very good. This is nostalgia-driven, and a poor third act. A lot of people said it has a bad ending, and I'm inclined to agree. But this is not awful, but yeah, I hadn't really realised that it's a proper Disney movie, and it's probably going to have some of the same issues that these Star Wars Disney movies have. But not quite. I think this is fairly well directed. So, James Mangold, story-wise, iffy, but this is well directed. There's an incredible, maybe not incredible, but very good, very fun opening 25-minute prologue where Harrison Ford's face, but not his voice, which is very off-putting, is de-aged. So he looks like he did, when he was making Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade in 1989. Set in World War II, there's a tower that's collapsing, and then there's a motorcycle chase, and then there's a fight on top of a train, which has one particularly awful CGI shot where there's, I think, a real train, but a CGI man running on the top. And I'm like, come on, you've got Extraction 2 and Mission Impossible 7 coming up, which have practical, real stunt train sequences, and you're going to do this in the middle of these two. So, again, iffy. But the action in this is good. There's a tuk-tuk chase in Tangiers, which I thought was really good. All the action in this movie is pretty good, except maybe the last scene, which we'll get onto. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert for Indiana Jones, but I'll tell you when. Yeah, but generally, I was having a fun enough time. I think it's... they're trying to do something interesting with the fact that Indiana Jones has aged, should he be going on these adventures, but I didn't like where the character began the story, and I didn't like the way that it ended, and all the stuff in the middle was fine. And the de-aging at the start, that's the best sequence, but it is ruined by the fact that no matter how visceral or real they're trying to make it with the effects or the stunts, it clearly isn't real, because Harrison Ford just doesn't look like that anymore. And I thought, was it even necessary, because the rest of the action scenes where he is 80 are actually well done. So I don't even think you really need a classic Indiana Jones sequence. And if you want a classic Indiana Jones fight sequence, just watch one of the first three movies. Because as we know, fourth movie, I haven't seen that in like 10 years. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, a bit of a controversial movie. This movie's going to be controversial as well. But I'll get onto the spoilers. Firstly, Phoebe Waller-Bridge got a lot of criticism, I think, at the time when she was only doing like a day or two of script work on the last James Bond movie, No Time to Die. Lots of clickbait articles, and people wanted to clickbait that movie because of, oh, the new James Bond's a black woman. Well, no, the new 007. It's a different thing. And I thought that movie actually handled that quite well, with Lashana Lynch playing another 00 agent. That was fine. I rewatched that the other day. It's actually, they handled that quite well, and I thought this was ever so slightly less well handled. So people clearly on the internet, woke, or go woke, go broke. The amount of times people are going to say about that about this movie is going to be depressing. Because what does that even mean? What does that even mean? It means something different to everyone. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is Indiana Jones's goddaughter. She plays Helena. She's an awful character in the sense that she's, a bad person, really, and she becomes nicer as the film goes on, and then that, she has a bond with Indy, which is nice. That's nice. I didn't think it was very good, but it was nice that they were trying, right? And it sort of works. But she's not very likable. So I don't necessarily think that people complaining about her character is wrong, but the way they're doing it is awful, because they just see Phoebe Waller-Bridge and like, oh, we hate her. Why? Maybe watch the movie and think about that for yourself. She's fine. She does an okay job, and she's kind of funny in a few scenes. But it's not as good as the relationship Indiana and Sean Connery as his dad was in the third movie, the best movie in my opinion, Last Crusade. It's not as good as that, so I don't even know why they bothered. Mads Mikkelsen's fine as the villain, not given a whole lot to do. I think I've seen some people saying he's hamming it up and chewing the scenery. There's no scenery for him to chew, especially when there's some CGI backgrounds and stuff. There was a nice temple set around 2/3 of the way in, actually. John Williams' music reuses a lot of the sort of action beats from previous films, and I thought actually, especially in the prologue, that was fine, because it's supposed to be reminiscent of the past movies. And he's 90, so I'm going to let him off for reusing stuff. It's still really good. The music's still really good, and Helena's theme, I didn't notice it at all throughout the movie, but I listened to it on the soundtrack and it sounded very nice. But yeah, okay, spoilers. So, Dial of Destiny, obviously, they go back in time. The Dial of Destiny, Archimedes' dial, shows them a spot in the sky where they can go back in time, and they go through in a big CGI plane and have a big CGI fight on a CGI plane and CGI water and Greek warships, because they go back in time to ancient Greece. And you think, okay, this is going somewhere. I have heard this is a long movie. Maybe they're going to spend a bit of time interacting with these Greek soldiers, and that could be an interesting sequence. No, not really. They spend all the time in this plane that's crashing for like 10 minutes, and then when Harrison Ford, or Indiana Jones and Helena finally get off the ship and the villains exploded in their ship because they jump out, Indiana Jones wants to stay because he's old and he doesn't want to. He wants to be where he's learned about for all these years, because he's an archaeologist, of course. And I think, okay, that's kind of interesting. But no, Helena's not having any of that. She punches this, 80-year-old in the face. He gets knocked out. You don't see them escape in any exciting way. They wake up and they rehash a scene from the first movie where Marion, who Indiana Jones has divorced at the start of this movie from being married in the fourth movie. They rehash the romance scene from the first movie, and then it cuts to black. Rubbish ending. It felt like they ran out of money or time. I've seen some people saying that they were welling up at the end. I didn't feel like... I mean, if you're watching this for the first time, or this is your first Indiana Jones movie, or you've only seen one of the movies where Marion isn't in it, then you're not going to know a damn thing about their relationship, or why this scene is a callback. So it doesn't work if it's a standalone movie, and every movie should work as a standalone movie. So you don't feel the relationship, and they go back in time, and that's fine. It's Indiana Jones, you can do that. But they don't do anything interesting with it, and then the movie just ends with Indiana Jones not making a decision for himself. And I don't feel like the conflict of the movie is resolved in an interesting way. And I feel like it probably could have been resolved easier than doing this 2-hour film, because basically Helena, his goddaughter, gets him and marrying him in the same room together, and then everything's fine. I guess he's back because he's gone on an adventure, but I just didn't think it was up to much, the ending. So overall, I gave the film a 5 out of 10 on Instagram. Maybe that's a bit harsh because it is relatively well made and there were some enjoyable sequences, but I feel like generally the emotion of the movie didn't work for me. And I wanted to like it because I had seen some good reviews. So it wasn't necessarily like, oh, I'm going to go into this movie and I'm going to hate it. I hope not. I hope it's got some exciting action. And there is a lot to like in this movie. It's just not perfect. I feel like this is one I will return to in a few years or in a year or something, and maybe enjoy it more when I know how it ends, and then just enjoy the good stuff about it. Because this is not a train wreck, nor is it a extremely fitting resolution to the character. We already had one in Indiana Jones 3, where they literally go off into the sunset in a beautiful last shot. That's really where the Indiana Jones movies should have ended. But James Mangold and Disney, dug him up, and it feels like it was sort of in conflict with its own existence at times. So, 5 out of 10. Dial of Destiny. If you really like Indiana Jones, rewatch them. And I'll see you in a week for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1.